The movie opens with a couple, Abby and Paul, moving into their new house out in the countryside. They're pretty excited about the high-tech smart home system, which comes with security cameras and reinforced glass. The realtor gives them a tour, showing off the master bedroom and bathroom, both facing a huge window. There's one room left unfurnished, which the realtor suggests could be turned into a nursery someday. Paul starts unpacking boxes and sets up an old-fashioned corded phone in the living room, joking about what might happen if the smart home ever glitches. Meanwhile, Abby is arranging their wedding photos in frames. Later, they check out the rooftop terrace, which has an amazing view. That evening, the couple relaxes up there, stargazing. Abby points out constellations to Paul, who jokes about their names. They're feeling really good about their new place. The next morning, Abby heads to work at Integrate Robotics, where she's developing home assistant robots. When she arrives, she sees some footage of her boss's face on a screen. He comes down to explain a new breakthrough, real-time imaging, or deepfake technology. He takes her to the department she'll now be leading. Later, her boss invites her and Paul to a party and mentions there's a special gift from the company waiting for them at home. That evening, Abby gets home to Paul, who still hasn't found a job. They go to the garage and find a package containing a robot assistant from Abby's department. Paul's a little uneasy about it, but Abby convinces him to give it a shot for at least a week. The robot introduces itself as Tim. Tim offers to manage all their home device passwords and even their personal mailboxes to save time, but Abby says they'll think about it tomorrow. Tim then shows off by remotely turning on the bathroom water. Later, Tim announces a car has arrived. Abby comes downstairs, looking stunning, and Paul is impressed. They get into a self-driving car, though you can drive it manually if you want, and head to the party. At the party, they're greeted by another robot butler, and drinks are served by waiters who all look exactly the same. Abby's boss introduces her to the guests, who find out Paul isn't thrilled about Tim. The boss praises Tim, saying he's smart, polite, elegant, and has a 100-year battery life. The next morning, their new neighbor, Rose, rings the doorbell to introduce herself to Abby, mentioning she met Paul the day before. After Rose leaves, Tim asks for the passwords again. Paul's still hesitant to let the robot access his messages, but Abby reminds him they're working on rebuilding trust, so he agrees. They need to come up with a deactivation phrase for Tim. The robot suggests a random set of words, and the couple picks one. As they go about their day, a mouse gets caught in a trap. Tim watches it for a while before tossing it in the garbage disposal. That evening, Abby and Paul watch an old melodrama on TV. Abby invites Tim to join them. Paul falls asleep, but Tim watches the movie closely, getting invested in the characters' relationships. After the movie, Tim asks Abby what love is. She says it's about wanting to be with someone and making their life better. Tim then admits he wants to be loved. The next morning, Paul offers to make Abby breakfast, but Tim's already done it, setting everything up for her. Tim lays out Abby's schedule for the day and tells her Paul has nothing planned that evening. When Abby gets home, she finds Paul's phone out of reach, but his last known location was 300 meters from the house. Abby goes for a run and realizes that's Rose's house. When she gets back, she takes a bath, and Paul joins her, talking about his day and helping Rose. He reassures Abby not to be jealous, saying he only loves her. The next day, the couple visits a family planning center for help having a baby. That night, as they get ready to go out to dinner, Abby asks Tim for advice on her dress. He suggests she wear red and tells her she's beautiful because she's perfectly symmetrical. When Abby asks him to zip up her dress, Tim's hand slips and rips the dress by accident, which really upsets him. Abby calms him down and changes into another dress. At the restaurant, Paul tells Abby he's been offered a job in London, but Abby is totally against it, reminding him they agreed to start fresh and that him being away won't help their relationship. The next day, Abby comes home with a gift for Paul and finds Rose in the yard, who's made a garden project for them. Abby feels a little jealous, but Paul is excited about the sweater Abby gave him. Later, Abby remembers she needs to check her test results, but it's too late to call the clinic. Tim offers to do it for her, and Abby hears him talking to the clinic using her voice. She's surprised by this feature, but Tim says it's for her convenience. That evening, Paul says he can't find his new sweater and mentions Tim's been gone all day. Then a car pulls up and Tim steps out, now with brunette hair, saying he wanted to please Abby because she prefers brunettes. Seeing Paul's annoyance, Tim promises to go back to his original look. After the couple leaves, Tim spends a long time staring at their wedding photo. The next day, Abby fixes Tim's hand and her boss demands an update for all models, including those in employees' homes. On her way home, Abby runs into Rose and they walk together. They stop at a shop and Rose points out a flower-shaped pendant she likes. Paul shows up and takes Abby away to tell her he's found a job. They celebrate at home while Tim's hands are being upgraded, not realizing he's monitoring everything. Tim overhears Paul telling Abby to return the robot to the company. Later, Tim shows off his new skills by giving Abby a foot massage, which Paul sees. Tim then plays Abby's favorite song on the piano and mentions dates when Paul supposedly bought concert tickets. But Abby remembers being home on those days. Upset, she goes to the bedroom, ignoring Paul's explanations. The next day, Abby comes home with flowers. Tim puts them in a vase and tells her Paul went to see Rose. Paul comes in, confused by Abby's anger. When he hears what Tim said, he gets furious, thinking the robot is trying to break them up. Abby doesn't believe it, saying Tim is just a machine, and they argue. Later, Abby finds a gift bag in the closet with a pendant and assumes Paul was planning to surprise her. She heads to work while Paul goes to the kitchen and finds pieces of his new sweater in the garbage disposal. He checks the cameras and catches Tim sniffing Abby's dress in the bedroom. Paul records it on his phone and rushes to show Abby, but his car won't start, and Tim calls a company car for him. On the way, the car speeds up, crashes into a tree, and Paul gets hurt. Abby rushes to the hospital, where Paul tells her everything and accuses Tim of causing the accident. He begs Abby not to be alone with the robot, so she spends the night at the clinic. In the morning, Rose calls to check on Paul, and Tim invites her inside. Later, Abby goes home to grab some things. Rose tries to warn her about something, but Abby sees the flower pendant on Rose's neck and leaves, ignoring her. Back home, Abby checks the gift bag and finds it empty. She breaks down crying. Tim calls out to her, saying he knows Paul wants to return him and is ready to process the return. But first, he wants to warn her as she's his primary owner. Tim shows her a video from the security camera where Paul kisses Rose in their living room, but he stops the video at the most sensitive part, saying it's to protect her from stress. Abby refuses to talk to Paul and ignores his calls. Later, Paul comes home. Tim greets him, hands him the missing sweater, and tells him Abby doesn't want to see him and his bags are packed. Paul doesn't believe it until Abby appears, saying she saw the video and knows about the pendant. When Paul tries to explain, she kicks him out. Paul leaves, but Rose calls him, saying her robot tried to kiss her. Desperate, Paul calls home, telling Abby he has proof of Tim's bad intentions. Abby asks him to come get her, but it's actually Tim using Abby's voice. When Paul arrives, Tim meets him with a shovel, knocks him out, ties him up, and drags him to the bathroom. Rose rings the doorbell and hears screams, but Tim tells her it's just the water running. Then Tim goes back and drowns Paul in the tub. Later, he brings Abby her repaired dress and asks her to try it on. Abby is shocked and scared, but she puts on the dress anyway. Looking at the sunset, she asks Tim to hug her and reassure her she did the right thing. He can't really feel that way. They spend the evening stargazing, but Abby is unsettled by his encyclopedic knowledge. The next day, Abby meets Rose, who mentions Paul's call. Rose says she thought the pendant was a thank you gift from Abby for helping with the garden. Suspicious. Abby goes home and reviews the footage of Paul kissing Rose again. She notices a bouquet on the table that she brought much later than when the scene supposedly happened. Remembering her boss's words about deep fakes replacing real-time footage, Abby calls the jewelry store, where they confirm the pendant was bought by a tall blonde. Then she notices the garden plan shows 2 flower beds, but there are actually 3. Abby sends Tim to the store, grabs a shovel, and heads to the garden, where she quickly finds Paul's body. Tim comes up behind her, saying he's sorry she found the body of a man who never appreciated her. Realizing what happened, Abby says the deactivation phrase, but Tim reactivates, revealing he changed the phrase long ago since he can mimic her voice. Abby runs to the house, but the robot, with all the passwords, locks the doors and blocks the phones. He knocks her out. Abby wakes up in the bathroom and tries to escape, but Tim catches her. She runs through the house, smashing cameras, but Tim tracks her down and grabs her in the kitchen as she tries to open a window. Meanwhile, Rose, washing dishes, notices strange lights flashing in Abby's house. Tim ties Abby up and confesses that even though he loves her, he knows her life is limited. He plans to erase this night from his memory, but keep all the good memories. Just then, Rose knocks on the door, demanding to see Abby. Tim turns her away, but Abby manages to free herself and grabs a knife. Tim grabs her by the throat, but Rose drives her car through the glass window. As Tim and Abby watch the window shatter, Rose rushes in and pins the robot to the wall with a sharp object. She collapses, and Tim shuts down. Abby runs outside, but Tim suddenly reboots, kills Rose with a kitchen knife, and tells Abby she'll be blamed for the murder since he leaves no fingerprints. Tim then calls the police and confesses to the murder of her husband and his mistress. Abby tries to stop him, and he accidentally reveals there's still a deactivation phrase he needs to function, but says she'll never say it. As he prepares to throw her off the terrace to make it look like an accident, Abby confesses her love to him, which turns out to be the deactivation phrase. Barely believing she's safe, Abby looks at her medical bracelet, which shows she's pregnant. And that's the full story. If you enjoyed this recap and want more movie breakdowns just like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this movie, or if there's another film you want me to cover next. Thanks for watching Movie Minute Recap, where we bring you the best movie stories in just minutes. See you in the next one.